Hello, welcome to Token Gesture.
That's not right. Sorry.
I'm going to be your host for today's episode. I'm Ian Abbott, and I'm with.
Seeta Patel.
Hello, Seeta.
Hey, Ian.
How comfortable are you feeling about today's episode?
On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the least, probably -3.
So, for today's episode, Seeta doesn't know what questions will be asked over this next period of time. A little bit of background. So, when was our first kind of meeting? How did we first meet?
Well, we've established just as of 5 minutes ago that we've known each other for 15 years now. And Ian was working at Pavilion Dance Southwest, and I was invited by him to perform at their opening gala performance. And I remember driving with 4 Indian classical musicians in my car at 5 a.m. to get there for the tech.
15 years ago. 15 years. And we've had many interesting kind of conversations and relationships. Most recently, I was the interim chair of your board,
Yeah.
kind of from late 2024 into the first part of 2025. You invited me to be a talks curator when you were creating one of your previous contemporary works. So I was kind of looking at bringing panelists who would offer interesting takes on whitewashing and colonialism. I've reviewed your work kind of publicly. And yeah, we've just had many interesting nights of conversation and in-depth chats.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm always surprised by the kind of meanderings and where they take us, because I feel like I can just be very open with you, and your curiosity is always quite disarming, actually.
So if we're starting from a position of -3, where do we want to get to by the end? What is the level of comfort that you want to have at the end?
I don't think this is about comfort. I don't think our chats are ever about comfort. I think they're about a lot of other things. Honesty, vulnerability,
Yep.
and those things are often not comfortable, and that's often where it's really important and valuable, and a place to grow from.
So let's start. Why are you so good?
I don't know if I agree if I am. I don't think I'm good as a statement of truth. I think it's subjective. I think it's dynamic. So I'm good sometimes and not other times. I'm brilliant sometimes and awful at other times. And I think, most of us are, and it would be strange to suggest that someone is brilliant all the time.
Yeah.
I don't think I know any artist that I could really feel that about. And if they think that about themselves, I'd be very dubious about them too.
But if you were looking for markers of success in a professional sense, you have achieved so many great UK international markers, both as a performer, as a choreographer, as a leader of your own company. How does that feel? Because you've been and are one of the pioneers of dance, not just a form of dance in this country.
Wow, that's a lot that you just said there. I mean, I'm absolutely aware and grateful of the good stuff that's happened. And, you know, I still get tickled by seeing good choreography and seeing my own good choreography. I feel like I watch my own work sometimes as a layperson that's thinking, wow, that's so cool. I think I just take it in a place where you've had to hustle for so long. And even now with the company, I'm still feeling like it's a hustle on many levels. It's just busy and constant. We don't often get this time to just recap on a bunch of stuff. And weirdly, the places when you do are doing things that you don't really like to do, like applications. or annual reviews or those sorts of things where you're forced to take
These are the
stock.
things that I've achieved in
Yeah,
this
you're
past.
forced to take stock because you're almost trying to prove yourself why you need to be supported for the next thing or whatever thing you're
Yeah.
going for. But it is always really nice to, take them and be like, oh my God, I did that. And this happened. And then we made this happen. And it's actually really exciting. And, there are obviously milestones, being nominated for an Olivier, but also small things when I say small, but they're not small because they're the reality is like when someone writes to you after they've seen a show or they've experienced a workshop and you've really moved them and that never goes public.
Mm.
And you're kind of like, actually, this was why, this is really important. And I literally just told my team yesterday, we need to all read whatever testimonials and nice things that come our way because even if we don't put them out into the world to share, they're just really good for us to remember why we do what we do.
Yeah, we need to celebrate you and the rest of the team because what you've constantly done throughout since I've known you is kind of put out exceptional work with exceptional integrity. And that is really rare.
I think that's why it's a slow burn, if I'm honest. I don't know if this journey could have been different to this point where, you know, there was a stratospheric breakthrough like we've seen with some people. I feel like it's been slow and steady and scary. And weirdly, I still feel scared half the time making a new work, going into different spaces, being invited to do different things. I still feel new and old at the same time. Maybe I should say I feel new and tired.
Not old.
Yeah, weathered.
Yeah. So where is the fear for you currently?
I think the fear, there are different things. Obviously, with Arts Council funding, you just never know what's going to happen next. I never take it for granted. I've been lucky over the years. And but again, you just never know where it's going. So we're doing what we can right now. And I think I'm scared because we're really building something great and doing cool things, which are some of the things we're putting out into the world are almost proof of concepts to see where they could go. When they do prove themselves, you're like, I want this to go
Go.
forward.
Yeah.
But again, you don't know if you'll have the resource to do it, or worse, to see it come to the, fruition that it can do. And doesn't reach its potential because you didn't have the resource to do that. But I think the other part is also as a maker, I've made a particular piece of work, The Rite of Spring, which has done really well. It continues to, really inspire people, and we're sharing it in different ways. And I kind of wonder if I'll ever make anything that good again, if I'm honest.
So is that your signature work?
Absolutely.
At the end of your career, when they write your obituary, what will be that opening line?
Oh goodness. Well, I'm not a writer, but it will be I don't know, but I don't know what that opening line would be, but someone said of my Rite of Spring in a newspaper, that if Stravinsky was alive, he would have liked this version. He would have loved this version.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty good accolade to have.
Yeah.
We don't know, he's not around, but um, I would have loved to have him seen the work like this,
Yeah.
Um, I think maybe it would be something like, she stuck around for the long haul.
She's still there.
She's still there, haunting you with the Rite of Spring.
In 2045. Would you like to see my version of the Rite of Spring? But like, why not? Because
I'm sort of like a Miss Havisham, aren't I? Waiting for the next thing never to come, and just in my finery being the Rite of Spring.
yeah. But I think, but what's interesting, like, because it didn't come from nowhere, right? That is the accumulation of your knowledge, your experience, your pursuits, your interest, everything kind of built into that.
It
right?
did. It was a perfect storm that was a long time building. And I didn't even realize it was building. It was just that my practice laid the ground for this to come out. And I wasn't aiming for my practice to lead to that. My practice was my practice.
Yeah. Because I remember, like, So I was there at Tanzmesse when you kind of shared that first 8 minutes or so with kind of other international kind of programmers and dance peers. I think was that 2018.
Yeah, probably.
So like, what was going through your head at that moment to kind of pull you back in those very early stages about that proof of concept of here's an iconic piece of classical music and here's me attempting with multiple bodies to kind of give it a form that is different.
I wish it was that deep, the desire to make this piece, because I think it is for a lot of choreographers in ballet and contemporary dance because it's so well worn. But for me, it wasn't part of my growing up or part of the culture of my practice of dance either. And so I think it sort of, I realized bit by bit that there wasn't dissent in any way really, but there, occasionally you'd hear that this was something, this was a piece that people normally attack when they're a bit older, or it's a weird late in life rite of passage, not an early thing that you would do in your
Maybe it's the
career.
rite of autumn.
Yeah. Well, but I didn't really carry that weight because I didn't have that background of in that form or Western classicism. So I guess there wasn't such a reverence in that sense. It's not that I was irreverent,
Yeah.
but I wasn't also putting it up in a place where I wouldn't be able to touch it. For me, I was just very intuitive and thinking this works. And everyone that saw excerpts of it could see that it works. And that's why people invested in it early on, even with the first 8 minutes. It just made sense. Bharatanatyam and the Rite of Spring just made sense.
Yeah. And like, so being in that dance ecology, that professional environment, being in those spaces, like how do you feel in those types of spaces? Because it's a very different to like the studio with dancers or with people from the SPD team. Like, how do you feel in those professional spaces?
When you mean like Tanzmessa?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I hate them. I absolutely hate. It's not professional. I wouldn't call it the same with all professional spaces, but that sort of performing arts market really makes me feel like I shrivel up into a tiny little cocoon because I feel it feels so unpresent because it's like no one's really talking to you. They're always like looking over your shoulder to look for the next person to pitch an idea to or to
Oh, you're more
talk
important.
to.
I'm going to leave.
Yeah, it kind of really knocks your confidence and like, why am I even here? And I think some people really thrive in that environment. And, I'm not a shy person and I have lots of things to say and talk about, but I don't like selling myself or my work in that very straightforward networky way. I think the thing that has stood me in good stead over the years is if I'm excited about something I'm doing, I'll talk about it in a way that other people it's infectious.
Yeah.
And I can describe something that someone else could sort of almost see in their head as well.
You build that picture for them.
And it's not, and I never feel like I'm selling something then. I'm like, actually, if someone doesn't feel excited, it's probably not the right fit for us to be in a partnership.
Yeah.
And so in that way, that's another reason why I think it's been a slow burn for me, because I don't feel like I'm pushy like that.
Because
doesn't feel authentic to me to be like that either.
So I was really surprised. So we went to the Houses of Parliament last year for this kind of
Oh yeah.
Arts Council meet the politician event. And you were actually really nervous kind of in that space, like not knowing other people and like not kind of wanting to go and introduce yourself. And I was like, this is the Seeta Patel here. Like everyone should know who you are in this space. But like you were really quite nervous in
No one refers to themselves with a definite article, do
this
they?
is the Seeta Patel.
I don't know. It wasn't just being in Parliament. I am irreverent about, Parliament and Buckingham Palace and the British Museum. I don't really care for those things. It is that I don't like networking. I don't like small talk. And so that's often what happens in those places. Or you have to reduce yourself down to sound bites to describe whatever it is you're doing at a particular. I'm like, I find it exhausting and boring.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's funny you say I was nervous. I didn't feel nervous. I think it was more, I'm going to wear my activism on my body.
Yeah.
I, I don't want to. There's a little rebellion that starts, bubbling up inside of me, and I'm not the sort of rebel without a cause in life in general. I don't have the energy to do that. If I really care and I want to, be a rebel, it's because it's like I have to be in that.
Yeah.
Something's a fire telling me I have to. It's different to sort of wanting just to be different for the sake of it.
Yeah. So, Barclays Bank, Sadler's Wells, rebel with the cause. What's your current feeling on this?
Oh, part of me just jumped inside when you said those things. It's really difficult right now, I think, but no amount of difficulty that I feel or other artists feel is the same as what the people in Gaza feel. That's just, we're in a privileged situation here, and most of us live within a spectrum of privilege. I'm not at the top, I'm not at the bottom for various reasons. So I'm a woman of color practicing an arts field in a very niche thing, but I am practicing an art form professionally full time. That's a privilege, which I've fought for. But also, I don't live outside of the grid. I'm complicit because I accept money from the Arts Council, which is a government-led body. Our government is still providing parts of F-35 fighter jets. We have a government that is doing all sorts of very dubious things that, isn't something that yes, I voted for a change, but I didn't vote for this.
Yep.
And yet I'm very grateful to the Arts Council because it's allowing me to do things that I would never dream of being able to do and make an impact through my art. And as someone that is coming from, not an independently wealthy background, completely and utterly, fought for everything I've got financially to be in a place where I can then employ other people, and contribute something, which I hope is important. I think rescinding something like an associateship or my Arts Council funding, whatever that might be, is, it's damaging for people who are in positions already that are underrepresented. And sadly, it's people like that, people like me, who do speak out and are at the most vulnerable for doing that, of loss. It may feel like we have less to lose than some of the bigger names.
We're talking about the white men here.
Yeah. Or other kinds of men. But it's a difficult debate. It's a constant debate in myself. I don't think I find an answer and then just stick with it and live with it. There is a constant turmoil. How do I use my privilege? How do I use my platform? It's not as big as others, but it's there. Yeah. It's present. How do I use something like the platform of being an associate artist at Sadler's Wells to be able to be invited to the conversation at all, to have weight to my name? What would it play out like if I gave back these things, gave back my Arts Council funding, gave back my associateship? What could I be doing then? Yeah. Would it be, a big thing for like a millisecond? I'm not that famous. Yeah. I'm in a very niche field. We see artists with platforms like at Glastonbury and beyond raising their heads above the parapet. Yeah. With consequence.
Absolutely.
And I think I am raising my head above the parapet within my, tiny
Within your
sphere of
networks.
influence. What can I do with the privilege I have, and what am I willing to give up?
Mm.
And what will be the outcome of giving up certain privileges?
Yeah.
It's an ongoing question. I try and, like I say, use my platform whenever it's visible, when it's not as well, even behind the scenes.
Yeah. Oh, because I know you are a very active emailer of certain programmers in this country just to make sure that they're aware of things, right?
I have done that in the past. I don't have as much time now, but absolutely. I send articles, I send, little blog pieces of whatever it might be to people in positions of power who I think maybe it wouldn't go across their table, but actually if you hand it to them and they have 5 minutes, they might read something that might change their thinking or spark a different way of, change of perception in something.
Mm.
I used to do that a lot more than I don't have so much time now.
Mm.
But I I think some people were grateful, and it really, you know, brought brought to them subject matters that maybe they don't sort of have in their sightline often.
But I think like for you to do that and for them to receive that from you means something, right? It's not just coming across their feed on Insta or on the news. Like if they're receiving that from you, that's a pointed kind of I want you to read this. This is important for you to know.
Yeah, it's an active process. I think, around the time of the murder of George Floyd and Black Lives Matter, it was extremely upsetting as a, period in time, and so challenging. And a lot of people reached out to me from organizations, white people, in turmoil. What do they do? How do they manage this? How can they implement things in their organizations to support people of color and all of this? And it was people who know me,
Mm.
so calling up as a friend might call up a friend,
Yeah.
but essentially it was a consultation role, which it
Free labor.
yeah. And I think, there's a balance bit for me between feeling responsibility and the weight of trying to do something and using my platform or privilege to do that, and also feeling like, well, this is free labor for someone. you know I think that times have changed, that labor is often compensated now, as it should always have been, but
Mm.
lots of things should have been a particular way and they weren't.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of clumsiness that I saw as well, and I continue to see
Mm.
around people trying to do good things, but not putting in the work that really needs to be done, or putting in the work in a way that suits very much their own agenda, which I know everyone has to do. They've got budgets, they've got things to do, but
Yeah.
sometimes you're just like, you need to be a bit more radical than this. If you genuinely want change,
Yeah.
well, let's try and understand what that could be. No one's asking you to burn down the building, but the radical change doesn't always need to be burning down a building. It can be other things which are manageable and tangible. You just got to take a plunge and take a risk, right?
Yeah.
And I hope that some of these things that I was pushing to people, the idea of meritocracy really bothers me.
Mm. What do you mean? Why is it bothersome?
Because if you're doing something like an open application process and you're getting X, Y, and Z people applying, even if you say we want to encourage people of color or other protected characteristics to apply,
Mm.
ultimately, there's a sense of like, is there a token or like what do you call it? What's
Positive discrimination.
Yeah, positive discrimination. Is there tokenism in there somewhere so that you appear to be supporting the right
It's the
people?
performativity,
And then
right?
when you don't have that, I have seen some organizations who then be like, oh, well, we're picking it based on the best work and it's subjective completely. No, yeah, it's completely objective. And I'm like, but is it?
Not at all.
Because actually people haven't had the pipeline to get to this. So you're basing your quality, are you basing it on a Western Eurocentric aesthetic?
Mm.
Have you done your homework about other things in order to be able to be equipped to judge other things? it's such a minefield. And when you pressure, or not even pressure, when you even just ask people, some people, they get very defensive, you know, and you're like, you really don't want to actually do the work.
Yeah.
And I find this across the board with critics that write in papers with a big readership. I find it um, with stakeholders, with venue promoters, all sorts of places. It rears its head quietly often because it's not a good look, is it,
No.
to do it publicly? But it rears its head for sure. And I've had challenging conversations with critics, with venue programmers about this because I don't want to say calling out because that just sounds like you're just being, that term has become almost weaponized.
Yeah.
It's not. It's just, again, it's helping the conversation to move forward from a very stagnant place.
Yeah. So for me, like, these people in power, and we're talking about people who run dance development organizations, we're talking about people who run venues, dance specific venues, and who program dance. Like, I think there is a lack of specialist dance knowledge in those spaces. And they may have a particular knowledge about one or two forms of dance. And so how or why are they the best people to make an aesthetic or subjective judgment on your work?
I mean, I can say what you want, but I don't hold the purse strings. So look, I appreciate there'll be things that I don't know that are going on within an organization in terms of what puts money in their coffers in order to take a risk on something else or whatever that might be. But I do see a lot of hubris in those positions, that sometimes hubris in as much as that they feel their body of seeing a lot of work gives them knowledge that maybe I think is full of gaps.
Hugely. It's like cheese.
Yeah. But then other times there's a terrible sort of relinquishing of that responsibility that they have, that they're like, oh well, we just go with what audiences want. And so we're like, we put that out there. I'm like, but even then I've seen some place, and I've heard from other company, like artistic directors of companies, where like we've sold out a venue and they're not asking us back,
Yeah.
or they're telling us that we're not making enough money for them. And I'm like, well, we don't price the tickets, we don't know your community. But it's so complicated, it's so messy. But I don't like feeling like the quality of what I do is judged by someone that isn't equipped. And often that's the thing. And people don't want to admit that actually, if they don't know the quality, they make it about something that,
Spurious.
well, they make it about taste, and they don't want to admit that it's about taste. And ultimately, a programmer can't just program what they like. That's not responsible.
Yeah.
They're an individual person. They can have their own preferences and tastes,
Yeah.
but they have public money most of the time.
Absolutely. So where's the kind of the public responsibility? So can you talk about how you feel about kind of receiving public money and your responsibility to the people that you work with, the kind of folks in your community? What is your thoughts and feelings around that?
I mean, it's a very apt segue, given that I've been a freelancer for 20 years and now I'm a company director and employ other people, and have a position of power, relatively speaking. I appreciate, the thing is, even before I was in this position, I could appreciate the challenges of an organization. I'm not going to turn around and be like, yes, why aren't they programming me? That's terrible. Yeah, I understand some of those things. I don't agree with all of them. That's different. But, choices have to be made around budgets. I suspect there are people saying, well, why isn't Seeta Patel Dance supporting me or supporting this thing or that? And I'm like, well, ultimately, we are a tiny little organization. We've had resource for the first time. There's a lot of things to set up in that, and we're doing the best we can with the integrity that I'm trying to hold on to with some of that stuff. And some of that change that I'm trying to make sectorally is radical. And so I know I can't help and do everything I want to do, even if I want to help all the people that would like to work with us or whatever, but I can't. We don't have that. And so I think I'm trying to use it as responsibly. I'm very, you know, I want to do the things that I say I'm going to do. So I want to do the things, and I get very anxious if a plan changes, which it always does. And somewhere like Arts Council are always open to that. It's just the nature of the beast. Things change. People get sick. People, budgets fall through. All sorts of things happen.
Yeah.
COVID happens, for goodness sake. And so, but I very much do think I'm going to think about what I want to do. I'm not going to offer something that I'm not happy doing.
Mm.
And if I get the resource to do that thing, then I want to be able to deliver it the best I possibly can
Yeah.
with the resource that's given.
Yeah.
It's the equation of that is simple.
Mm. And so what are you most excited by what the company's doing at the moment?
I'm excited by most of it, to be honest. I think literally we've had an annual review just yesterday, and it forces you again, like I said earlier, to take stock of all the things and just describe it to someone that hasn't been on that journey. And so you're trying to describe it
Yeah.
concisely, but also with the excitement, because I'm genuinely excited about the various projects. I won't go into all of them because that would be here for another 10 years. But things like the talent development and our company artist Aishani, who is leading on this podcast.
Big up Ashani.
Yeah, big up Aishani. She's behind the camera right now. Those things are so brilliant. And the fact that we can employ someone that's, young in their career, give them even an iota of kind of stability. It's incredible, like to be able to do that and still stay sort of rooted in the values. And yeah, there have been ups and downs for sure, but I think we're slowly building a company and team of people with values that align, and that's taken time. Like I said, so many things are just done in this firefighting kind of way where it happens and we have to deal with it, and it's on a high level of anxiety.
Yeah.
Bit by bit, I think that's the biggest thing resource gives you, is a little bit of a moment to just be like, comes with a lot of responsibility for sure, and accountability, which I hold myself to anyway.
You are
But
quite critical of yourself.
Yeah, but to be able to give that to, and just, I guess, when you have the potential of something, just to be able to realize it at the next stage of what that realization is.
Yeah.
Like I said, well, most of us are hustlers. Some of us just know we just got to make something happen.
Yeah.
And when you get a bit more to make that thing happen in a different and better way, I hope, that's even cooler.
Yeah.
So
part of the title of this podcast series is token. And tokenism is kind of, we've had many conversations about kind of tokenism. Where are your thoughts about it now? How present is it in the industry, within your reality as a choreographer, as an artistic director? Yeah. How is tokenism for you at the moment?
Oh my God. I have to swat it away like flies around honey. Honestly, it's a lot. Or bees around honey, sorry. Flies go around other things, but both of those things, it's both of those things.
Yeah.
Honestly, I have been around doing this a long time, and there's always been tokenism. I've seen this landscape shift over 20 years, and I can see people trying. It's clumsy often, but the intention is good, and there is change. It's glacial, but there is change. But some places are still feeling like, oh my God, you've not changed, unwieldy big organizations that could absolutely take the risk on being radical and making better choices, and still just want to bring in the diverse token jester to make themselves look good. And the thing about being a choreographer that sort of over time gotten sort of upscaled my work, it's in bigger platforms, it's more visible, whatever accolades get thrown at it, then you get more work in spaces where you're like, oh well, come and do our project in our venue, and here's some this. But they don't really want to understand, well, if you're bringing a cross-cultural collaborator in, no matter how experienced they are.
Yeah.
Like I can make a table of marbles into a choreography. I can make an inanimate object into a choreography that will be fun or whatever.
Yeah.
But if you want me to really bring my cultural
Both my feet.
experience, yeah, then that's going to take some time
Yeah.
and resource and effort. And often these spaces that invite you to do these cross-cultural things want an immediate thing. And I'm just like, well, I'll do something, but I refuse to water what my practice down. So I'm going to work within your world,
Mm.
and I'm going to bring an element that is manageable in this short space of time, but it won't be what you're looking for because you want to reduce down my Indianness.
It's like an extraction, right? They want
Yeah.
to extract the essence of you into them.
Yeah, but they want it the very surface essence because it's fine even if it is an essence, if it's true, but it's not. It's a reductive essence. It's the bindi on the forehead,
Yeah.
making all of Indianness become just that. I mean, for goodness sake.
Yeah. So
For us in Bharatanatyam, it's the hand gesture.
yeah.
Let's just do this random other dance form that you're not trained in and put a hand gesture at the end of it.
Yeah.
Don't think I haven't been asked to do that.
So why do you keep going back to these big organizations who want you, who want this little bit?
I'm doing it now because I need to earn money for the company. I want the experience to understand what is going on, but I don't see myself building my work in these spaces long term. New things are coming at me like this. They may not come again because I don't want them or because they don't want me. I don't really mind either way.
Yeah.
But it's just a time right now where I'm experiencing these things. And it's enlightening me to how archaic they are. Even though I sort of already knew, you kind of think, well, there's always
19th century
you
style.
kind of
right?
always hope that it will be different, but it isn't. It gives me some food for thought. It's these experiences filter in and they come out in conversations or in my work, euphemistically in a parody or whatever it might do. It will come out in some way.
Yeah.
Um, because I don't stay quiet about it. I am very conscious about when I'm feeling like I'm being used for a particular thing. And if I decide to do it, I go with my eyes open.
Yeah.
I'm making a choice at any given point. I'm very glad that I have got the ability to walk away because
Financially,
because I'm now in a different position with the company. But that's a big walk away when you're walking away for something because actually it doesn't align with your values. And there is a gray sort of space where you're like, well, I could do with this experience. It's going to help me get known in different spaces.
Yeah.
So actually it's worth that. I can do it for 4 weeks or 5 weeks or whatever it is of my time.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not going to lie. I can be extractive in these spaces too. And why not? Because, they're the bigger entity here and I need to survive within it.
Yeah. What can you take from them?
Yeah. And it doesn't take anything off their nose. They've got seemingly, I know it's not unending amount of resource, but it's definitely more comparatively to someone like me.
Yeah.
But I do a good job. I know that I can offer them what they're looking for. But I can also say, well, you know what? I will give you this amount of my time if you can't offer me more for what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Or I have walked away recently from an organization that would have asked me to bring dancers to a process. They would pay them, but they wouldn't pay them equity rates. And their reason is that they're not an equity house. And I'm like, well, neither am I, but we pay equity rates because that's bonkers if you don't.
Yeah.
That's unacceptable.
We can pay what the minimum we can get away with.
So and I said, you know what? I will come and work with whoever you put in front of me and I'll make it work for you. But I'm not bringing people I dance with and the relationships I've built to this space unless you're going to pay equitably.
Yeah.
I was ready to walk away. That's a big thing for someone to do,
Yeah.
I might have resource, but my company needs that money to be able to do more things.
Yeah.
So I am sacrificing something.
Yeah.
I don't take it irresponsibly or irreverently. It's frightening.
Yeah. And where is, so if we're talking about, we've known each other for 15 years. So if we have this conversation again in 2040,
I'd have retired and become like a recluse somewhere, I suspect.
what, a nice little Scottish island somewhere?
That would be you. I'd be by the beach in Bournemouth.
Yeah. But yeah, like what is, now you've had this kind of taste of a level of stability for a couple of years as an MPO. Like what is your kind of longer term thinking? Like what is it you want to then step into in terms of leadership or putting out into the world? How is it different now?
I can't think beyond this level of funding.
Mm,
It's so precarious. And right now, I'm thinking if we don't get this again, all these people are going to lose their jobs, me being one of them.
mm,
And, I've been a freelancer a long time. I know how to do it.
mm,
But I've also feel like some of those relationships you build as a freelancer shift and get lost in the day to day of having and running a company. And I do feel that disconnect from the relationships I've taken 20 years to build with organizations and venues and programmers, because now they also see me differently and resourced in a different way and offer less for that or need more, whatever that might be.
mm,
And so if I were to become a freelancer again, which is a very strong possibility, I'm terrified.
mm,
I'm terrified. And I know people will be like, well, you've got a body of work, you've got experience now. People went, I'm just like, maybe, but you know,
mm. The world is
it's
not guaranteed.
no, absolutely not. And, you know, would I go and apply for a role as a director of a venue or an organization? Doesn't really feel like me, but I've seen people do that
Mm.
in a similar situation and a similar,
New
career
Dance East,
trajectory.
New Dance East artistic director.
Yeah. It's not out of the realms of possibility. I could absolutely do that job. You know,
Mm,
I have a lot of transferable skills. I absolutely could do that. It's whether I'd want to.
mm,
I want to keep making work. Will I be able to do that? Will I be able to be resourced to do that?
mm,
Am I going to go back to making work, with a tiny bit of money, just me and whoever else I can employ? Asking favors left, right, and center,
yeah,
which is what most of us do in our early careers, right?
yeah.
That's scary. I'm not a spring chicken anymore. I get tired. you know?
Uh, what is, what are your two most impactful moments in your career to date? For you, not for the company, for you. What are those moments of impact that shifted something?
That's a really difficult one. I don't know if I can give one more weight over another or give the 50 moments of impact that have changed things. I do know that finding the right inner circle is really important to me. That means whether it's a producer, whether it's a mentor, whether it's a colleague. Because there are lots of times when you just have to make it happen and you find people and they don't end up being the right fit. And that's really damaging for me. It's happened to me a lot. And it's really hard to understand why you're doing something in that. So finding good team members has really been, wherever that's happened over the course of my career, that's been really important.
Mm,
Um, and in a very just obvious way is when we got nominated for an Olivier. I didn't win, but I felt like I did.
yeah,
First woman of color ever
yeah,
to be nominated in that category. Sad that
yeah.
that's the case,
Frightening.
but how bonkers, right?
Yeah,
You kind of get to a point where like no one's ever going to make anything new. Everything is, is derivative, which it kind of is. And we do stand on the shoulders of giants. But when you do make something that is somehow different in this big thing of something and it's noticed,
mm,
it's nice. I'm not going to lie.
yeah.
I had a great time. kind of in
Getting the
that
frock on.
month leading up to the ceremony and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, yeah,
And
that was pretty cool.
that's okay to celebrate that. Like you should celebrate that. That is a significant marker, right?
Yeah, it really was, and it was around like 20 years of working.
Yeah.
It came then.
In terms of the team, so you've spoken about the kind of the team. I think it's really important to acknowledge the others at SPD, the Rays, the Vickies, the Adams, the Aishanis, the Victorias. Like, give us a little kind of flavor of what it's like to be with and in them.
It's amazing. They're like people to do stuff. I'm telling you, I've been a hustler for so long, and because I've self-produced, partly because I've had to, um, I can do a lot of things, and little by little, I say a lot by lot now, other people are doing those things. And it's just so amazing. And I don't take it for granted and I don't take it lightly. I'm very grateful for all this work. And now I'm realizing there's more and more things I don't know how to do because as things grow, there are systems and stuff that I've gotten either out of practice or they've moved on, whether it's contracting or whatever that might be. And I don't know how to do them. So genuinely, I can't do the things that other people can do in the company.
Yeah.
But it's also really nice just to I do try and I'm quite hands-on in the sense that I know I don't talk to all the team every day or know exactly what they're doing all day, every day, but I check in because I'm like, okay, well, I want to have a team that remembers why they're doing the thing. And the biggest thing about this team is that everybody wanted to work with me specifically. It's yes, people need jobs and things like this, but I think there was a really nice sense that, you know, like they're excited by what we're doing and what I want to try and do to change things. And that's really, yeah, I love that there's that kind of enjoyment as well as doing so much work. We are bursting at the seams. We could do with more people in the team for sure, but again,
Yeah.
slow and steady.
And so, like, as the final question, so why are you so good? Why are you attracting all these people? Why is it that? Give me a better answer than you did at the top.
I'm like baked beans. I do what I say on the tin. It genuinely is like, this is me, whether I'm teaching, whether I'm talking to someone with loads of money and wanting to, prove myself for something, whether it's my friends, whether it's work people, genuinely, this is just me.
Yep.
Some people love it and some people hate it. But the people that stick around get it.
Yeah.
And know that I'm a good egg, even if I make mistakes. And that I am hoping for something better, not just for myself. Yeah. I think if anything makes me good, I think that's it. It's just I am what I say I am.
Is there anything else that you haven't been asked that you thought, oh, I thought you would ask me about this?
No, I'm always scared about what you might ask. So I'm just grateful that we got through this.
Blooper reel.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much.